okay?
All right.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Tammy O'Neill. I'm the organizer coach. We have a wonderful guest with us this evening, and I'm very excited to share her expertise with us. And before I do, I just wanted to touch base with you on the organizer coach and what we do. Being an organizer and a certified coach, I work with diverse population of people that have neurodiverse brains, which includes ADHD, autism, traumatic brain injury, etc. And so we combine the coaching and the organizing together. I work with all ages, from young people to maturity. So we're just thrilled to have you join us tonight. And our session tonight is with Michelle. She's going to be talking about this because not only is she an occupational therapist, but she's also an instructor, and she has her own business. And so we're going to be talking about how hoarding can impact fall prevention. And we're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. I'm going to turn this discussion over to Michelle so she can introduce herself. And as we're talking, I'm going to ask her to put her information into the chat room. So if you are watching this now or later and you have questions, you can reach out directly to her. However, if you want to reach out to me, I'd be glad to accept any inquiries and share them with Michelle. And also, just to let you know that we have, Michelle works with all ages also, and we have attended a couple of meetings together, and I was just so impressed with what Michelle does in her occupational therapy and how she works with the clients. And I thought this would be a great program, a great session to share with you. So Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you will tell us your background, how you got interested in becoming an occupational therapist, and then we'll get into the session topic of how hoarding impacts fall prevention. Okay?
Well, Tammy, I want to thank you for having me. And I've been an occupational therapist. This year, it was 3 decades, and it's something to look way, way back as a high schooler. And I came from a home that my mother was an alcoholic, and so I didn't drink. And high school parties on New Year's Eve, you leave the ones where people are drinking. And we left a party, and on New Year's Eve, right before my senior year, I drove up on an accident. It was a head-on collision, and it was high schoolers. And one of them was inebriated, and there were 3 deaths and 1 survivor. And that survivor had a traumatic brain injury. And because we were first on the scene, I fell in love with her, and I followed her journey through hospitals. She was a student at a private school, not my own high school. And she was 18, but she regressed to about the age of 8. And so she had physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. And then I forgot about it. And I went off to college to become a teacher. And I took a skills inventory, and it said, you really should be an occupational therapist. And so I visited Texas Women's University. I checked out physical therapy school because everybody knows what a physical therapist is and nobody knows what OT is. But I was a perfect match for occupational therapy because my minor's in psychology, and it's more holistic and humanistic and less just about the biomechanics of function. So that's me in a nutshell.
Very nice. So tell us, now I want you to tell us too about your business that you do, and then also your teaching, how you incorporate that.
Okay, so a little bit about me. My entire career has been spent rehabilitating people after mostly things that happen unplanned, whether it's a fall, a car accident, a heart attack, a stroke, things that nobody would wish to happen. And I've always spent time in home health my entire career. Probably, let me see, I've done this 30 years, probably 27 years has been spent seeing patients in home health. I was a traveling therapist, and the same thing I saw on the East Coast in Virginia or maybe Georgia, I also saw in Texas and in California. And it was people falling for, they do dumb things. They climb up on a ladder and nobody's there to spot them. They are up in the attic and they step on off of a beam. But mostly I see household trips and falls, and it's over stuff, it's over people, and it's over animals, pets. And about 3 years ago, I had 3 patients in 1 year, all preventable falls, but they were life-changing. One resulted in quadriplegia, or paralyzed with all 4 limbs. The other broke his neck right after a bathroom remodel that his family did for him, but they were just lay people. They didn't really know what they were doing. They just knew, let's get the bathtub out. And he actually tripped on his walk-in shower. He wasn't used to the small lip to get out of the shower, and he hit his head on the sink and broke his neck. And then the other one was doing a perfectly wonderful leisure activity. He was in a deer blind hunting, and he fell out of the deer blind. And I had decided then it was a passion I was going to move forward with, to start my own business. And my business, I do work with all ages because I'm an occupational therapist. It's cradle to grave, but I've kind of zoomed in lifestyle transitions. I actually have a DBA, lifestyle transitions for seniors, because statistics proven by worldwide research is that 1 in 3 adults over the age of 65 will fall in 1 year. And so I'm 52, I'm not 65 yet, but my mother-in-law is 78. Her sister-in-law just died from falling. She fell, she broke her pelvis, and she made it out of the hospital only to get pneumonia, and then she died. But she was only in the hospital because of the fall. And so it's a passion of mine. And to date, I'm a new business, and to date, I've been able to help 3 individuals, 2 in Arlington and 1 in Dallas. And sometimes it's what's just common sense to me. The obvious, because I've been doing this for 30 years, is just not as common sense to a loved one, the person themselves, or the healthcare community, unfortunately. So my business, I would get a referral from a physician, from a family member. I do take insurance. I take Medicare, Medicaid, and some Medicare supplement plans, and I do accept cash payment. And my specialty is I come out and I assess the person in their environment. And that is what sets occupational therapy apart. We look at what's inside the person, what about the environment that person's in, but most importantly, what's their occupation? What is occupying their time? What is their activity that is their focus, the things they want to do, need to do, or they're expected to do? And I look at all of that in their environment to try to improve the safety and reduce what we refer to as modifiable fall risks. I can't help you if, I can't help you that you're 65 and older. I'm not going to reverse the clock. But if you're 65 and older and you have low vision, well, I've got a lot of tricks in my toolkit. If you're 65 and you've had a stroke and you're paralyzed on one side of your body, I can help you out. If you have balance issues, if you have sensory issues, those are things that I specialize in. But I'm like a home safety inspector. I'm not there to see, is your roof needing replaced? I'm there to see, wow, that is a low toilet and you haven't replace that in years and you're not as young as you were and your knees don't bend as well, and getting up off of a low surface is difficult and it can actually lead to a fall. Okay. So that's about it.
Wonderful. And tell us again the name of your business and how
you'll find me. I did drop the website link there in the chat at lifestyletransitions.net, and you can just email me at michelle@lifestyletransitions.net.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. So when we're talking about fall prevention, and this is kind of what instigated the conversation, what are some realistic changes that an individual can make?
So I appreciate that question, because when I think about realistic, I think our realities are all individualized, right? So your reality, Tammy, you're an organizer by trade, and you have specialty training in neurological specialties, whether it's ADHD, which you know that I have, or neurodiversity, which I have a son who's on the autism spectrum. Your reality and mine are two different things. So realistically, I like people to just, even as they're watching this, to take a minute and look around their environment and just see, is there anything that they'd like to change? When I think of safety, the number one thing I think of is pathways. What is an obstacle between you and what you want to do? So we have basic activities of daily living. We all need to use the restroom. And I always like to think of, what's the first thing you do in the morning? You know, you and I, we have different routines. I wake up in the morning, anywhere between 5 and 6. The first thing I do, and I'm not going to kid you, is I grab my phone and I play Wordle. I try to get it in before my husband, and I send him my stats. But then I make a decision. Am I going to be the coffee maker today, or is he? Am I going to get up and take a shower? Or am I going to leisurely lay around? So as I plan that first step of throwing off the covers and getting out of bed, that's where I would like your audience to think first. Like, is there an obstacle? When I throw off my covers, are they pooling in the floor? And am I going to trip on those covers? Because I have a lot of patients who have too many covers and they're unable to just bend over and pick them up. So I may think, just keep a reacher by your bed. Get those covers with a reacher so that you don't have an opportunity to fall. That would be my first thing, is just to assess the pathways. So that's just getting out of bed. You still got to get to the bathroom, right? There are individuals that walk with assistive devices, and there's individuals that rely on wheelchairs. So is there a clear pathway? Is the treasures that we collect blocking that pathway? Does the bathroom, does it have so many treasures in it? Do we have valuables? For instance, I recently had a client, her walker fits into the bathroom, but not as close to the toilet as she needs. So she parks her walker inside the bathroom, and she tripped on her walker walking around it to get to the toilet. You know why? She's incontinent. So she has a trash can that sits in front of her toilet. So I actually just looked at the environment and said, your tub is right next to your toilet. She's not using the tub. Let's put the trash can there where you can reach it. And now the pathway in front of your toilet is unobstructed. And it worked like a charm. And so it's just the little things. The path to the kitchen, that's another basic activity. Can you get yourself food and drink? Where are you going to sit? Can you transport food and drink to get to where you are going to sit to eat? Hopefully you're not standing to eat. So when we go through those, can you get clothes out of your closet? Are the clothes even in the closet, or are they on the side of the bed? It's all about those basic activities. And that's where I suggest that you start, the realistic. And I always think, just one thing. What is the one thing? Not all at once, but focus on getting to the bathroom. That's an important one. The one thing.
I love that, Michelle, because that's what I do, is work with my clients, especially in the hoarding population. This is key. You know, health and safety issues are uppermost in my mind. Like you, when I go in to do an assessment, that's where I'm geared for, is health and safety. And so, and I've had, you know, several clients that have mobility issues, and they're unable to maneuver because of all of the treasures that are collected. And so that's why I was asking, what do you feel is a realistic change that a person can make in their home?
So Tammy, I want to piggyback that, in that I believe that people want a clear pathway. They don't want to. No, I have yet to meet anybody that says, I want to live in a nursing home, or I can't wait to fall today. And so they're always unplanned. And I would encourage your audience and people who love those people who collect items, get in there and help them, because they can't do it themselves. They literally, the last thing I want for one of your clients that has a balance issue or a mobility issue is to try to pick something up and move it and then fall doing that.
Right.
And I have a resource list that I'll pop into. I'll probably give it to you and let you post it, because I'm going to save it as a PDF. But on that resource list, there's lots of community programs, and some of them are like us, like telehealth. If you're going to have obstacles to overcome, collectibles, valuables, treasures, you need to improve your balance so that you can physically overcome them. And there are tons of programs, A Matter of Balance, Stepping On. There's physical therapists that'll come to your home. And because you brought up a mobility issue, I do want you to know occupational therapy and hoarders, they go back to a recent study in 2015, and it's a barrier to receiving healthcare. You said promoting health and wellness. And so when I look at a home, I look at a few things. I look at working smoke detectors. I look at, is there a safe exit if the house did catch on fire? And not just one, because that front exit can be blocked. Can they get out a different exit? And I had a not recent, but a few years ago, a lady I saw in Hearst, and I didn't know the fire department would come out and install smoke detectors for free. That's a job they do for you. And up walked 8 beautiful firemen, 8, to do a home safety inspection for a fire. And they realized when her house was painted, she never went through and opened any of the windows, because who could do that? And they were all painted closed.
Oh, no.
Then they said, well, you're confined to this bedroom, because she herself was a hoarder and she was wheelchair dependent. So she was limited to her bedroom only.
Oh.
And they asked her, ma'am, what would you do in the case of a fire? And she goes, I guess I'd throw myself through the window, not just out the window, but through the window. And then they said, how? Because she didn't even realize there was furniture blocking the window.
Blocking the window.
So your health and safety is a huge priority for me as well. And that is something that I look at on every assessment.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up, because, and you hit the nail on the head there. In working with some of my clients with hoarding behavior disorders, they don't see that as a health and safety issue. Not that they're not that they're highly intelligent people. However, it's because they have lived in this environment for a length of time. They've become accustomed to it. And so I think it's important what you said, that with the exits, pathways, windows. And it's interesting you say that too about the firemen, because I spoke with a trainer, a fire, what was this? I don't know what his exact title is, but he's from my hometown, Charleston, West Virginia, and he has written several books on, he's become the house whisperer. And because he has been called out on so many fire situations, and the inhabitants had the hoarding disorder, hoarding behaviors, and they were unable, they didn't know this. The firemen did not know going into the fire. So they had to literally cut through the foundation. They had to cut through the doors, the windows, to remove the people inside the home, just to get them out, because they couldn't get in because of all of the blocked entrances and exits.
And I'm only going to interrupt you to tell you that now you've hit the nail on the head, because as I was researching for this meeting, Florida is a little bit ahead of North Texas. And I know that we're going to partner and try to build a consortium for helping the community that hoards. And in Florida, they have a group, I think it's in Broward, Broward, and it's a group of like-minded individuals. So it's the first responders,
Mhm.
it's the healthcare community, which I would fall into. It's a counselor. Sometimes it's the local church leader. And they come together to train and to recognize so that they're already in the know, which I was going to tell your listening audience. There's something called the Vial of Life. You may be familiar with it, but I learned today of the Yellow Dot program. But the Vial of Life is just a vinyl pouch that goes on a refrigerator. And in that, you can also put it inside your refrigerator if your refrigerator is too cluttered for the magnet. Inside that pouch is just your vital information: who to call, what are you allergic to, what medications do you already take, what are your health conditions, because there's nothing like EMS coming and then they know nothing about you.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a safe place usually, is that refrigerator, but I've included that in my resource list. And like the city of Bedford, they already practice the Vial of Life. The city of Arlington does too, but it's a giant capsule that's actually in your refrigerator or your freezer, and you put a sticker on your front door and the EMS knows, go there immediately.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That's very helpful. Very helpful. Well, I know with the trainer, this fire trainer, he was able, because he had worked on so many cases, he and several of the men that he's trained has gotten to where they were able to change the language, and they were able to share. So if they knew ahead of time when they were called out on a fire, if they knew ahead of time, they were able to change the language and say house with heavy content. And so that
nice.
that gave a heads up for the safety of all the EMS people, right? And they knew that they were going to have to take a different tactic to get into the home and be prepared in a different way.
And Tammy, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but let's say that you had a client who's on oxygen. It's very important that they notify, or let's say you have a new client that's out of the hospital. They should notify the firehouse that services that address, and they can make a phone call. I bet now they could just send an email to the fire chief or the fire marshal there and notify them. My name is Jane. I am out of the hospital with a recent broken hip, heavy content. My room is in the back of the house. I am unable to get up off the floor. And there you can create your own bio of sorts that it's married to your address.
Oh,
so
nice.
When a 911 call comes in, boom, they already have that information, and it's not EMS relying on the church pastor or the home health agent or Meals on Wheels to tell them this is a home with heavy content.
Oh, that's wonderful, because in those kind of, in those situations, in fact, I just had a client that this happened to. She had, this is her third fall, and she was hospitalized, and the EMS, they've had to come out numerous times, and her husband told me he couldn't help her, he couldn't lift her.
No.
And it was due to the heavy content in the household.
And statistics, after the first fall, you're about 50% predicted to fall again. So the first fall is a risk of a future fall, as is a hospitalization and an increase or change in meds. So now's the time. That's what I would tell your audience is don't wait. Don't wait to become that statistic, the 1 in 3 over the age of 65, and everybody falls. You know what the next age group is? Teenagers. They're the next age. So it's 65 and older.
Right.
And then teenagers, and falls occur in the bathroom. Also slip in tubs. It's amazing how falling is blind to age.
Yes. Well, there's no barrier there.
Right.
Right. We're all walking, so we're all gonna experience. I have myself have fallen.
So have I.
What's the and we've talked about how to make the changes. Who can help make the changes? Who can help people make changes?
So it has to start with the person themselves. And I I dare say, an astute medical community and a community of loved ones. Oftentimes, people who hoard, it becomes a barrier between them and their loved ones. The loved ones don't understand it. It's frustrating. It causes fights. It divides families. And oftentimes the burden falls on the person themselves. So that's who I would start with is, if I'm a hoarder, I need to just make a phone call. When I come up with people who are available to assist in cleanup, I found an article, and Boy Scout troops, they're able to assist and they get a badge, and it's a service to the community. I think of myself as an occupational therapy student many moons ago. I had service projects. I was a member of a student occupational therapy association. All of us need to get out with hours of volunteering. And so I think, well, oftentimes I don't want that person falling, trying to remove their own clutter. But if it's just, we need to get stuff off this rug, roll up this rug and make a path because now Jane walks with a walker.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that can help do that. Now, I can tell you it's a hard environment. You know that, I know that it's a hard environment to be in. And you just have to have good training in the community and build a coalition. I've included some resources. I'm a Tarrant County resident and business owner, and I've included some resources on the Tarrant County page of just resources to help the aging community. And some are right down here and down the road from me in Hurst, Texas. Others are in Fort Worth. Some are in Arlington, but hopefully your audience will find a number. And I always encourage United Way 211 as a wonderful first step to call. Maybe they just need assistance in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good place to start as well. But it has to start with that person.
Right, with that person. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. So when they have, when the client has reached out to me and say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm at. That tells me they're motivated for change. And so it's wonderful to have all these different resources available. I think I mentioned to you before we went live, my client that has some arm mobility issues, and we were looking at ways to hang her clothes that wouldn't require the hanger because she can't she can't get the hanger right. So we're just trying to think of ways to improvise for that.
So I would tell you she's a perfect client for occupational therapy because I specialize in rehabilitating people and teaching them the workarounds to, and maybe the answer is she doesn't hang her clothes. It could be as simple as that. And we find a new place for those, or, I hate to say a coat rack or a hat tree, the most frequently used items. They may just go on a single armed hook,
Right.
But there's a lot of options.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know for that. So, and the resources you've got in the chat room, and we'll share that. That'll go out. And so anyone that wants to take advantage of these resources, please do so. And appreciate you sharing that with us, Michelle. That's very thoughtful. Is there a better time to start implementing the change?
Oh, you're going to laugh at my answer, but I'm going to say yesterday. I think preventing falls involves planning. You don't wait until after you fall and to say, I wish I would have rolled up that rug, right? And so, or created a pathway. So I recommend just when people are off this call and watching this interview that they just take a minute. They start now, they look around, they pick up the phone and they call their loved one who they know it's a barrier between and say, I'm ready for a change. They call you, they call me. There's a lot of help out there, and they just make that first call. They make that first decision. They visit your website, they visit mine, and know that we're here to help. So yesterday.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, we could talk for hours on this. but unfortunately, we're down to our cap here. But I do want to thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your time with us tonight and your expertise. This has been absolutely wonderful to share, and information that is doable for everybody. And I love that. And I love the fact that you have resources that people can take advantage of, and they can look around, like you said, what's the first thing that you want to do? You know, what's going to impact me the most? And it's those small changes that can be made. Love that. So again, thank you, Michelle. We're going to head off here, but you can please go into the chat room where Michelle Holloway, occupational therapist, and all of her contact information is in the chat room. And this is Tammy O'Neill, the organizer coach. I am signing off for tonight, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.